Thank you for joining us for this week's segment of Everybody Has a Story. Today we're joined by Andrew Claster, who is the Deputy Chief Analytics Officer for President Obama's re-election campaign in 2012. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Deputy Chief Analytics Officer. I want to jump into analytics, but I'm sure a lot of viewers don't know what analytics is and what your job was on a day-to-day basis. Can you talk about what you do as a Deputy Chief Analytics Officer and what kind of data you deal with?
Sure. So the campaign has all kinds of data coming in. We have data from the field, from our volunteers and field organizers. We have data from polling that we're conducting. There's a lot of public data that is available about what TV buys are being placed, public polling, everything that's out there, as well as whatever's being published in the media. And so our job on the campaign was to try and figure out how to use that data, both the internal data and the external data, to inform campaign decisions, to make decisions, to help campaign leadership make decisions about where to invest resources and what to invest resources in, whether it be TV advertising or social media or online ads or voter contact, voter registration, persuasion, etc.
So how long has this kind of department been around in political campaigns? Was 2008 the first time?
So in 2008 it was called targeting, and it was a much smaller department. It was just a handful of people, and they focused primarily on the field side. Starting in 2009 at the Democratic National Committee, we started building a bigger team. We brought a lot of things in-house that had previously been outsourced. So we started doing a lot of our own polling. We started doing our own model building, and we really built that out. And so in 2011, when we made the transition from the Democratic National Committee to Obama for America, and we moved our team from DC to Chicago and really started ramping up for the presidential election. We ended up with a staff of more than 50 people working in 8 different groups within analytics, including a group that focused just on paid media, a group that focused on online, digital. We had a group that focused just on model building, another group that focused on communications, etc.
I know you deal with things like persuasion indicators, like how likely a certain factor is to persuade a voter, Democrat or Republican. Mm-hmm. What are the most significant indicators that you saw during both 2008 and 2012?
So there are a lot of people who, going into a campaign, either have already made up their mind or they are exceptionally unlikely to change their mind in response to contact from us. So we're trying to identify people who are most likely to change their mind in response to a contact from us, and what kind. There are some people who respond to, who are going to respond to an email or to an online ad. There are other people who are going to respond to a neighbor or a friend who calls them up on the phone or comes by and knocks on their door and talks to them. And so for every individual, it depends. It depends on the medium, and it depends on the message as well. And so we're trying to target the right message in the right medium to the right voter.
Now you target a whole range of voters based on a lot of information, based on a lot of indicators. Do you see us getting to a point where advertisers or campaigns are becoming too intrusive into personal data?
Yeah, I think one question is, a lot of the data we use, it's not new that this is available. A lot of this data has been available for decades. Voter files are public, for example. And the proprietary data we have about people interacting with the campaign is data that every organization collects. So I can understand a lot of people, I think, get the sense that that there's a lot of data out there about them, but I think they have to think about how it's being used, and really we're trying to use it in a way that is effective. So that when we are, for example, targeting someone for voter registration, we're targeting people who aren't already registered to vote. So presumably it's in the interest, not only in our best interest, but also in the interests of the voter to get messages that are relevant to them.
Now, when building an analytics staff, I know you guys were kind of called the geek squad of the Obama campaign. But when going out and building this geek squad or this analytics staff, how important is a balance between people who know the political realm and know the technical realm? I know you started off in 2008 as a field organizer for the Obama campaign, so you had some background in this. How important is it to have political background and not just technical skill?
That's a great question. We wanted a mix. So it's important to us. We built a team of more than 50 analytics professionals, modelers, analysts, etc. So it was important to us to have a number of people who had worked on political campaigns before, to have a certain amount of knowledge and experience in the way campaigns are run, but it was at least as important to us to bring in people who had never worked in politics before. And so, you know, in addition to, even those of us who've worked in politics also have a lot of other experience. You know, I've got private sector experience. Other folks who have worked on the campaign since '08 had previous experience working as consultants, working in finance, working as modelers, and so you know, people were bringing a lot of different kinds of experience to the table, and so it was important to us to have that kind of environment where there was a lot of knowledge transfer among individuals, so that there were multiple people one could turn to if you had a question about political data or about past election results or about individual voter behavior, as well as all of the technical questions and other questions we deal with regarding human behavior and modeling and statistics and software, etc.
Now, having these analytics teams, you know, you had Nate Silver in the news a lot this campaign cycle. It's kind of showed that you know, math wins out, or that numbers have a role in both predicting and helping win elections. How has that dynamic changed from 2008 to 2012, and how will it change in 2016? Is there a big new project that you see being part of 2016 campaigns?
I'm sure there is. I don't know what it will be yet. I know about a lot of little projects, and it's not clear yet which one is going to be, you know, which ones are going to be the biggest and most important. We've made a lot of progress in the last few years, and every 2 years, every 4 years, you know, there's another huge leap forward. And I expect there's going to be another big leap forward between now and 2016. But there are a lot of things we've learned, a lot of things we know about how voters behave, what motivates them, what gets them to turn out, what persuades them to support our candidate, what the best way to reach them is. And some of those things are going to change over the next 4 years. You know, use of social media is changing. Availability of smartphones is changing. And so the way people interact with each other and with campaigns, the way people get information keeps changing. And as a result, you know, the things we've learned, we can't just apply them without retesting or without testing new technologies that develop, or without testing existing methods of contacting voters in a new environment.
Andrew Claster, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this week's segment of Everybody Has a Story. Back to you in the studio.